Hey guys, it's Tricia here of TriciaSitemere.com, and I hope you are having a phenomenal day. So my topic for the month of September has been all around personal development, specifically personal development challenges. So I haven't done a ton of videos this month, but I have been covering them with different infographics on things like procrastination, time management, and in this video with my very special guest, we are going to be talking about confidence. Confidence, confidence, confidence. We've heard confidence is key. We have heard, how confidence shapes how you show up in the world, and what exactly, where exactly does confidence fit into your personal development journey, or how does it show up as a personal development challenge? So we're going to be having that conversation today with my guest, Karl. So I will let Karl introduce himself in just a minute, but me and Karl at this point kind of go, I don't want to say way back, but we've known each other for a while. We spoke at a panel together, and his organization sponsored one of my very first events, which was almost a year ago, my summer soiree. So he's been a huge supporter of all of the things that I've been doing with Control-Alt-Delete for a while. So I appreciate you supporting me yet again and imparting some of your knowledge and sharing some of your energy with the Trust Tricia tribe. So Karl, give us a little rundown on who you are, and then we will jump right into the conversation.
Fantastic. Well, first and foremost, Tricia, thank you for having me. I was really excited to be able to take part in what you got going on here, because I could tell you've got a lot of good positive momentum, positive energy. So I was happy to be able to come on and be a part of that. A little bit about me. So I work in the beverage industry as my full-time job. I'm a regional sales manager for a sparkling water brand called Spindrift. So I cover quite the geography for them, about 5 states. And my job is to meet with local retailers and get them to either bring our product in or create a promotional calendar to be able to promote our product in their stores. So some of the major areas that I'm focused in are Colorado, Texas, Louisiana, and I also cover a couple more states where we're slowly but surely building some more traction. Outside of my full-time job, because these days we tend to keep ourselves more busy than not. I've been doing some small business consulting as of late when a lot of the shelter-in-place parameters kicked in, just helping people with small business navigate a challenging and different time. And recently I signed on as a co-owner of a liquor store that we're opening in Belleville, Dallas. So fun stuff.
Nice. That's breaking news to me. So congratulations, and definitely swing by to get my martini supplies.
There you go. Or we can deliver them to you in 45 minutes or less.
Listen, okay. So now we're talking. We're gonna have to talk about that offline. So the reason that you would be a good person to talk about confidence. So from the very first time I met you, you exuded confidence. We've had different conversations around, how confidence plays a part in your life, how you kind of navigate through the world. So I have a background in HR, so obviously I've done coaching on confidently sharing about your work experience, confidently being able to tell your story and how you're a good fit for whatever role that you're in. And I've also interviewed. And so I think that's where we kind of connected on the, how does confidence show up in interviews and how you land a job or all of that stuff. And so that's kind of the lens that we're looking at it from. But also you have been on your own personal development journey, which I think is the case for most people that are wanting to learn and grow and expand. So that's why you're a good person to be talking about confidence with. So this is Confidence with Karl. So confidence with a K.
I love it. I love it.
So I just have a couple questions. We'll go through all the questions and we'll have a conversation about it. So in terms of confidence, do you think confidence can be learned?
I think it can. Very much think it can. I wasn't always a very confident person. I think inside of myself, I was very confident in what my capabilities were, but how I projected that to others was the trick for me. That was kind of like the part that took a lot of practice. I think as individuals, especially, in this day and age, we are very confident people in our ability and what we want out of our future. But I think the thing that, our generation tends to really grapple with the most is how to get there. And, I've seen it manifest, and I've manifested it in various different ways, right? Like over preparation, over study, super researched on the particular topic that I'm either going to step into, or I'm going to speak about, or I'm going to meet somebody on. Those things are all well and good, because especially when you don't know the landscape, it's very important to always be perceived as a studied person, especially when you're working with people in a workplace. But I'll say this much: confidence is something that it's a journey. It's not a destination. And by the time that you actually feel comfortable on your subject matter and really feel like you're a pro in your space, something comes along that kind of throws you for a loop. And I know most recently, we were trading some messages back about pivoting, and I found that people, that are super confident or exude a strong degree of confidence are at peace with having to pivot, or at peace with, things not going exactly according to plan, because for them, it's not the plan itself, but where they're trying to get to. So confidence is definitely something that can be learned if you want to learn it. Like, you have to constantly be putting yourself in a position to refine your skills. I'm really big about sports analogies. So to use the basketball analogy, man, you have to be at the gym all the time. Okay. You constantly have to be running back the tape, taking a look at certain things that you did, and not going as far deep as analysis paralysis, but just learning from yourself.
Yes,
I think
analysis
another thing,
paralysis.
It's huge. Analysis paralysis is a thing. And, I think especially our generation, we have a tendency to compare ourselves to our peers. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I first came into the workplace out of my undergrad, I sought out a mentor. He had been with the organization for like 15, almost 20 years. Great guy. His name was Reggie Kennedy when I was at PepsiCo. And Reggie, we were sitting down for lunch one time, and I was a bit discouraged because I'd come into this organization where I didn't have any technical background in IT whatsoever, but I had worked with my own beverage DSD startup company, right? So again, I had a really solid conversation during the interview with the interviewer, and she really liked me. She thought I was super knowledgeable, and I remember she even told me, she was like, "We're looking for somebody with a bit more capability in terms of technical aspects of the job, mm-hmm. but we definitely feel like you're a great fit. If something comes up, we'll reach out," which I thought was the nice way to let me down, right? But I appreciated it all the same. She ended up calling me back. I ended up coming into the organization. I remember I'm sitting down with Reggie. I'm a little frustrated because, frankly, I was a little intimidated by some of my peers. Like, they were super technical and super proficient in the IT space. And me, I'm a metrics analyst. Like, the best I can do right now is pull data out of the database and quantify it, which is a pretty powerful thing I get to learn later, right? But he told me, this was the nugget. All that to say, this was the nugget that he gave me. He was like, "Karl, too many people come into corporate America and they do themselves the injustice of comparing themselves to their peers," mm-hmm. right? The fact of the matter is that, individuals, especially, at your age coming out of college, you all have different capabilities, man. You all are hired for different reasons, put on different teams, mm-hmm. right? You're connected so that way you know more people that are around your age inside of the organization that you can connect with. But you guys all have different capability. It is unfair to you to compare yourself to the rest of these people who don't have the same capabilities that you have, or that you don't have the same capabilities that they have. Mm-hmm. It's like the most efficient and effective way to measure growth is to compare you to yourself, mm-hmm. over a period of time, right? And that, for me, confidence is all about perspective, right? I feel like that at the nucleus of confidence, it's all about how you see things, right? You could choose to see them from one particular angle, and it could discourage you significantly, mm-hmm. or you can choose to see things from a completely different angle that complements what you have to offer, and really focus in on delivering that value. For me, in an interview, confidence is about how you present yourself, and how you are versed in your subject knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
but also having the professional maturity to be able to say, hey, I'm not too proficient in that area, but here's how I get past things that I'm not proficient.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I agree 100% with the sports analogies, and the one thing that you just said around perspective and mindset is, I mean, huge. It's almost the foundation for everything that we do. Like, you can see the glass half full, you can see the glass half empty, and it really can change your entire life just by saying, hey, okay, what is this perspective? How am I looking at this? What do I think this situation is? How can I be open to XYZ, kind of tying back to what you said about pivoting. So I agree 100%. So you talked about our generation and our people, and not comparing ourselves to one another. And this has been something that I have experienced personally, because I would say that I am a very confident person. I'm very comfortable with who I am and how I show up. And I 100% love being Tricia. And for some, I guess that comes off sometimes as arrogant or overconfident, or people have met me and they're like, oh, Tricia's uppity, or she's stuck up. And it's like, once you get to know me, I mean, you couldn't be further from the truth. But I am just very, thank you, cosign. That's just very, I'm very comfortable and confident in who I am as a person. So what are your thoughts around confidence versus arrogance?
So I definitely think
for the other person.
No, I definitely think there's a very fine line. And I think it's like the difference in how it's perceived is how you execute it. But there's also another component that you just don't have any control over as an individual, and that's how people choose to perceive you based off of their point of view and their perspective, right? I remember when I was younger, like in my early 20s, I had this tendency of like really not being friendly until I had a reason to be friendly. And I remember when I first got to college, like I went to U of H for a couple of years. I left school and then I ended up coming up to UNT. And I remember when I first got there, there was a guy I was hanging out in the circle with. I didn't know him too well, but one of my buddies did. And he was like, "Hey man, can you do me a favor? Can you smile for me real quick?" I thought it was funny. It was like, because I just didn't know, man, like you were stone faced right now, So like, it's, for me, confidence versus arrogance is a matter of perspective and how people perceive you. And you're not gonna be able to control people's perceptions of you.
Right.
All you can do is put your best foot forward and stand by the person that you put out there to be. I've found that countless times I've been told, like, hey man, you can be a little intimidating, and when I'm in the workplace, and there is work to be done, I'm all in. And I'm all in for multiple reasons. A, because it's a learning opportunity for me, both about people and about the challenge in question, but also B, out of respect for the other people that are committing their time. The fact of the matter is we live in a world where there's always going to be a lot to do and not enough time. Doesn't matter if we had 36-hour days, we'd still be short on time. So from that standpoint, for me, it's all confidence versus arrogance is all about how you perceive it and how people perceive you, and just know that there's going to be a certain degree of people out there that are going to misperceive you. They're going to misperceive what you're projecting and putting out in the world, but that's okay, right? Because as long as you stay consistent and you always make yourself available to help people, regardless of what the task is, that barrier won't stay for long. One of the things that, again, I'm going to harp on our generation, but in a positive way, we tend to be very collaborative people in a space where we don't have the answers to the questions, right? We tend to not be so collaborative when we're competing against each other, but I think the opportunity is to turn that competition into more of a collaboration where everybody moves forward together. But like we tend to be a very collaborative generation in the scope of like, hey, You've got these resources, I've got these resources. We're both trying to get here. How about we team? Right? And that in itself helps break down a lot of those barriers. Like, people like working with competent individuals. The fact of the matter is, like, I know, just me specifically, I like working with other individuals that are super confident in their space. I also like working in individuals who may not be as experienced or skilled, because the right individuals who don't meet those markers quite yet usually supplement that with a lot of energy and enthusiasm. And that's a very key ingredient as well. So I guess my long way of getting to the answer to that question is, you know, it can be a tightrope sometimes. There's always dynamics in play, which you have to be a bit emotionally intelligent to be able to read the room, right? Because again, we're very quick motion. We're very go, 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 right? And sometimes, you know, because you're in such fast motion, we can kind of overlook some of the simple little touches that really take things from good to great for the sake of accomplishing what needs to be accomplished. But you're never too far removed from being able to double back to those things and, you know, really bring them full circle. I think that's what really makes a difference between confidence and arrogance. The way you execute that is everything. Bringing people with you versus just blasting past people and leaving them behind.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, on my own personal journey, I am down to take as many people as who want to go with me. And I'm always reaching out to folks and trying to see, you know, how can I support them? Like, I get a ton of LinkedIn messages. My LinkedIn stays popping all the time. And like every single person I respond to, I always end it with, how can I support you? How can I help you? How can I make a connection? Because I know that my success is not my own. It is a collection of conversation and support from lots of other people. So I don't think that it's arrogance by any means. It's, you know, I know who I am. I know what I'm good at. I know where I'm trying to go. And I think for me, it's been a really good way for me to quiet out unnecessary noise or unnecessary distractions where it's like, oh, butterfly, let me go and do this. It's helped me stay focused because I am confident in what I'm doing. But, you know, also confident but open to other opportunities. Like I don't know everything, and I will be very transparent and open and saying, hey, this is my area of opportunity. This is how I can close the gap. And the same thing that I do with my clients when we're talking about, okay, how do we move the needle from point A to point B? It's like, okay, what do you know? Let's use that as foundation. Two, where are the areas of opportunity so that if you don't feel confident in this space, we can kind of beef that up so that you are able to bring your full self, your full persona to the table. So thank you for sharing that. My next question is around confidence, and if you are maybe lacking in that area, what are some of the ways that it can hold you back?
That's a great question. Because I think we've all experienced areas where we could have been a little more confident. I think, speaking very plainly, I think if you're trying to quantify the ways that it can potentially hold you back, at least in my experience, it's always going to hold you, or it's always going to produce some missteps in the smallest of ways, right? The crazy part about the small things is they tend to add up over time. But it's always going to, you know, like really manifest itself in the smallest of ways. Now, again, like I was saying just a minute ago, you know, the things that you can control are how you look at them. The things that you can't are how other people look at them, right? And the easiest way to diffuse a potential situation where you feel like the dynamic in between you and whoever you're collaborating with is starting to be hindered because you feel like there's a certain degree of lack of confidence. I feel like it's fair communicating that and being honest. I don't feel like you need to over communicate that every time you think you make a misstep, but I feel like it's fair to be transparent and be like, hey, look, I missed that, but you know, I've got it now, and you know, I'm gonna keep rolling with it. I'm gonna pick it up and run with it. Simply because those like part of being really proficient in your craft, in my opinion, is yes, being really successful at the things that you need to accomplish and the tasks that you have ahead of you or the initiatives that you're trying to lead. But it's also being comfortable in your own skin so much so to admit that you did not succeed in that particular space, right? It's like, hey, I missed a step there. I have a 2 weekly calls with my team. My team's spread out throughout my entire geography. But there are times where I miss a step with my team because there's 8 of them and there's 1 of me, you know, and I am an avid note taker. I'm taking notes on this call as we speak. But, you know, I try to, yes, exactly, right? I try to take as many notes and write down as many things because, like, and this is the next component for me is I know me. I know how I'm productive. I know what I need to be to ensure that I stay productive. And now this is one of the systems that works for me to keep me organized. Right. The fact of the matter is you're gonna have missteps. You're gonna have areas of opportunity. Personal development, professional development is not a destination, it is a journey, right? And the deeper you get into it, frankly speaking, the more you get thrown for loops sometimes. Because you even find yourself in spaces where I didn't realize that I'd lost my touch with that, right? Or I didn't realize that I wasn't in tune with this particular subject as I used to be. Like I used to be in this particular end of my craft, right? But just again, going back to my sports analogies, you know, when you're in the gym and you're training on a particular, you know, like jump shot or driving the lane, because that's what you need in order to get those rings right now, you know, you lose focus on certain other ends of your game. You know, they're going to be a bit rusty, and that's okay. But being upfront and honest about it, like, hey, look, like, I was not able to get that done. However, here's my plan to get it done, and here's when you can expect to see it. I think for me as a leader, and that's one of my, I guess you could say, one of my sticking points. And that's because I lead that same way too. I expect that same degree out of myself. Like, if you have a problem or a challenge, speak up and say that. But also communicate what your plan is to complete it, right? Because we're all given certain tasks, you know, whatever our craft or our hustle is or our ambition is, we all have certain responsibilities at the end of it, right? So that's still something that your team is depending on you to fill the void on. So, you know, hey, we all fall, we get back up and we keep on running, and we look for the ball for opportunities to put it in the hoop and keep the ball moving down the court. I think for me, that has been one of the things that has helped me find a lot of confidence in my craft and the way I work. Because again, going back to what I said, like, there's not enough time in the day. Like, there is a difference between knowing what you can accomplish and knowing how much time and or energy you have to accomplish it. Right? I used to think time management was everything. You know, now in my 30s, I'm like, it is definitely not time management. Like, if I know if I need to find time, I can go find some time. It's energy for me. Like, it is energy. And I never in my 20s thought I'd be saying that at this, you know, like a few years down the line. But I mean, here I am. Like, there are times where I know I have plenty of time and my energy's low. And if I try to force myself to do that, the quality of the output is just not going to be the same, right? So it's like that. I think early on, you're trying to master how to balance time, right? And then later on, you transitioned into a space where you're just like, yeah, like I probably need to go to sleep right now so I can wake up early. Like I'll be fresh in the morning.
Oh my gosh, you are speaking my language 100%. Yes, time management is a little piece of it, but the energy component and being able to put out good, strong work that you are going to be proud about and confident to have your name on, regardless of what it is huge. Sometimes you just got to close that computer.
Yeah, you know, like I remember when I was in grad school, like, I'm a pretty ambitious guy, and I love producing A+ work. Like, that's something I pride myself in. Like, nobody's gonna outwork me. Nobody's gonna out-hustle me. Nobody's gonna outproduce me. Right? Like, and the fact of the matter is, as much as I sit here and say that, I have been outworked and outproduced before. And those are usually the guys where I just look at them, I'm like, respect. Like, I know that took a lot.
You're killing it.
You know? So, but, you know, like I remember when I was in grad school, you know, I was working full time. I was going to grad school full time, and I was in this accelerated program that was 18 months. So I was going to class every other Friday and Saturday all day. Like I worked a deal with my boss where on the Fridays that I was in class, I was working on that following Sunday, right, to make up for the time. And I want to say it was like 2/3 into my grad program where I just found myself just working like 7 days a week for like months straight, right? And I had to come to a understanding with myself where it's like, look, man, I know you want to produce like A+ work, and I know you're not going to be satisfied on that. But right now, I need you to produce a solid B+ so we can keep this thing moving, right? We can come back to it. Not going to hold you back from coming back to it. But right now, this is what we need in order to keep this thing going. So, like, finding comfort and solidarity in that wasn't an easy thing for me, right? Because, like, even when I would hand in a delivery or the deliverable for the rest of my group, you know, I would be sitting there like, that could have been a whole lot better. No, it could have been a whole lot better. I hope you don't see the mistakes that I made in that paragraph to read. Like, I was just like, and then one of my peers would be like, man, this is great work. It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
But, you know, like I had to come to terms with that, like, hey, it's okay, right? Like, have a plan, right? Have a plan on what you want to do. And if it's that important to you to double back to make sure all the bells and whistles are put on it, do it, right? No problem, but have a plan.
Yeah. So we touched on this a little bit, just around confidence in your job search. I think more of the conversation that we've had today has been confidence once you get into the role and as you're kind of, you know, feeling the lay of the land. But give me your thoughts around confidence in the job search process. I think that's super key right now while so many people are trying to make transitions because of, you know, quarantine light bulbs that have gone off and epiphanies and, you know, things that people have realized now that maybe they've found some clarity during this time of solace and being able to take a step back and think about what they're doing with their lives. But then also for some of those folks who did not have a say in the matter, who have been either laid off or furloughed because of everything that's been going on. So I know specifically like for my clients who have found themselves in positions where they've been furloughed, or sometimes even folks who have been laid off, it takes, it's a bit of a hit or a bit of a blow to their confidence. And so getting back out there and looking for a job and going through the interview process, especially when they're interview processes where they are long and sometimes drawn out, which I'm sure everybody is familiar with, or you know, they are getting anxious and they need to find a job, and you know, job search is freaking hard. So what do you have to contribute to having confidence around your job search?
So, you know, I've been the job searcher and the searchee of prospective employees. Most recently, I just staffed a few people for my team within the last couple months. And, you know, it's searching for a job is tough, especially in a changing environment where there is no manual or protocol, right? Frankly speaking, I don't feel like there's a manual or protocol period, but when there's a certain consistency and system, it can give you that sense of like, hey, here's the structure. Here's how this goes about. I go on to LinkedIn, I check the box on premium, and people start looking for me, right? You know, that's one mechanism.
Yeah.
But, you know, I feel like as far as confidence in the workplace goes, I feel like confidence is all about momentum, right? And when you come to a screeching halt and all of a sudden you don't know which way to turn, that can halt your momentum incredibly. You know, having confidence is all about building momentum and learning the space that you are charting into, right? You're not going to figure it out, but just using the example that you use right now with this pandemic and how, you know, so many different processes and procedures have just gone left, where so many companies or organizations frankly speaking, are figuring it out as they go along. They're like, oh, that's a thing. We probably need to make a system for that. All right, hey, Jim, can you make a system for this? Like, there's countless learnings that are transpiring right now. Right, momentum is super key. Like, as easy as it is to say from a position of being employed to an individual who is unemployed, as easy as it is to say, you just got to keep your head up, stay in the game, right? The fact of the matter is, when you knock on a healthy amount of doors, nobody's answering, that's tough, right? But again, I go back to, like, confidence is, at least for me, confidence is built via momentum, right? So when I try something a few different times and I don't get the end result that I'm looking for, I know it's time for me to change my approach, right? So in the process of trying those things that, I'm coming up short on, I'm also learning. Like, you have to consistently be a student of your craft, right? The environment of your craft is gonna change.
Yep.
The fact of the matter is, this is a big shakeup in the last 10 years. It's the biggest shakeup in the last 10 years. The last one was the large financial crisis that happened in 2018, right? So again, huge shakeup there. Previous to that, it was 9/11. Huge shakeup there. Revolutionized certain industries. Completely changed how you approach it, how you go to business. I think being very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Vigilant on how the field is transpiring and really looking for the place to carve out your space is key. Another thing to keep in mind, and I just touched on this most recently, was the landscape is completely different, right? So people don't know what they want until they find something that's going to help them accomplish something they need, frankly speaking, right? That is not an easy thing to identify either. But the more you go through this process, the more you knock on certain doors, then you start connecting with people. And let's say it doesn't go well, you hone in on what they're telling you and how they're saying certain things. So that way you can prepare your communication to them or your skill set to complement what they're looking for. The reality for me is that the job market is a marketplace, right? It's like an economy in itself, where the job market is the acquisition and what's the word I'm looking for? It's when you acquire and you let go of talent. It's a marketplace for it. I was looking for the polished word, but I couldn't find it.
It's okay.
So it's the marketplace is free trade of talent. To be completely frank, when you look at it from that standpoint, you have to put yourself in a position to be, the number 1 draft pick or the number 5 draft pick, right? Or the number 10 draft pick. You just need to get drafted, right? and that's not, like, again, going back to perspective in our generation, of wanting to succeed and be masters at our craft. Like, coming to terms with being number 10 draft pick when you were just like an awesome producer in a space that maybe the organization that you were at wasn't prepared to undergo the environmental changes it just went through, right? It has displaced you. That doesn't mean that you're not quality talent. It just means that your employer probably wasn't positioned properly to be able to weather that storm, right? And so they are faced with certain decisions on having to manage it differently.
Right.
And that's a tough thing. That can break somebody's spirit, especially when they feel like they are going like miles a minute, delivering top tier results, absolutely putting the ball over the fence and the number 1 earner, right? Nobody's safe. That's the reality of it.
Yeah.
So for me, building momentum and just putting myself out there, being exposed to certain things, doing things differently that I've never done, surrounding myself with individuals or having conversations with people that normally, because I was so busy, I wouldn't have gone and sought out these people. But now I have the time to do that, right? It's not about finding the answer. It's about identifying the nuggets that help you connect the dots, to be honest with you.
Yes. Come on, Karl.
And like, when you do that, it is the most incredible thing ever. Like, you swear you just won in Game 7 of the finals. Like you just took home rings. Like, yes. It is probably the most beautiful struggle to navigate. But
I agree.
that's exactly it.
I agree. I'm not a huge sports fan, but I do follow your analogies. It's like, for my people who don't follow sports, it's like picking the perfect nail polish in the nail salon and then coming out and being like, oh, this is good.
I did that. Like I've literally watched my wife do that. So we've gone to the nail salon a couple times. She was like, yeah, I did that.
So you
that
know,
would work.
you know how that goes. Thank you so much, Karl. You have shared a lot of information and a lot of perspective around confidence and how it plays a part in your life. Do you have any additional recommendations, advice, suggestions for anyone whose confidence has maybe taken a hit, or whose confidence is lower than they would like, and they're really just looking to build themselves up? Like, what would your recommendation or advice be?
Great question. And I'll start with this. I know you've heard me say this before. Don't be afraid to fail, right? Failure is not a end of the line. It's just an end of an era, right? Where maybe the way you were doing certain things now has to evolve. You know, the easiest way to rebuild your confidence is find certain things that you can get some quick wins out of. Like I usually carry this spiral notebook. It's a steno notebook, right? I know how to get momentum and production out of myself the fastest way possible, especially when I have to get up and going. I carry the steno book, and it's like my rolling to-do list. And every Monday, you know, I either move stuff over from the week previous and add new stuff, right? But I'll put even simple things on there that are easier for me to like knock off, because it's the visual aspect of like knocking stuff down, like ticking the box, like keeping it moving. You know, that like, you know, you put some good music on, you're knocking down some work, and all of a sudden you're like, yeah, I got this. Where's the big meat at? I'm ready for that, right? Like, find little ways to build your momentum. Find, like, nobody knows you better than yourself, and maybe your mom, but nobody knows you, baby, better than yourself, right? So understand where your strengths are, you know, and also where your opportunities are, right? And be honest with yourself in the fact where maybe, you know, the current space that you're in is an opportunity to put some attention on something that you've neglected for a while, because the only way you're going to navigate past it, get back or beyond where you were at previously, is to overcome that barrier that you're facing. Like, sometimes the best way out of that scenario is through it. You know, and keep yourself open to learning, keep yourself open to not succeeding, but don't give up and be resilient. Like, go in there, approach it differently from all the different angles that you can see it, and solicit input from people who may not even know what they're looking at, because sometimes they give you some of the best advice in the simplest way possible. Right? Like, I asked my brother the other day, I was like, I'm trying to figure out this and this. I'm trying to secure some funding for our business. I've been focused on this and this. He's like, why didn't you call me sooner? Like, you know, I operate in the financial industry. And I go, well, you know, I figured different markets. He's like, Karl, come on. Like, all you need to do is this. And I just looked down and I was like, oh,
damn it.
Yep. You're right. You are right. But like, sometimes it's those individuals that aren't even in the thick of it with you, but you leverage as a sounding board, or just hearing yourself say it out loud connects all those dots for you. And you're just like, oh, God. Okay, let's go.
All right.
So don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to communicate with others if you're struggling. That's a daunting one in itself too, because, you know, we never want people to perceive us as being incapable. You know, it's human nature, but it's okay. The fact of the matter is, you're not supposed to have all the answers.
You're not.
You know, and, you know, stay resilient at it, man. Like, if you really want it, if it's really worth something to you, don't give up. It's mathematically impossible to lose.
Yeah. Or if you need support, you can also find a coach and someone who will help you break things down, keep you accountable, and making sure that you're moving the needle. Of course, I have to plug plug myself in the conversation. But no, thank you so much, Karl, for sharing your perspective. We always have a really great conversation around whatever. So I knew that you were going to definitely bring some really great insights to the conversation, and I appreciate it. If people want to support your liquor store or all of the fantastic things you're doing, you want to find out where you can get Spindrift, how do they keep up with you?
Gotcha. So my chance to plug. So my daytime job, I work for Spindrift Sparkling Water. My end of the business is the retail outlets. So you can find us in Target, Whole Foods, Trader Joe, Kroger, Albertsons, Tom Thumb, all those traditional outlets where you go and you find groceries. You know, I hear from so many people, Spindrift, I never heard of that. But then I show them a picture of the can, they're like, man, I see that stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. So we're out there.
It's expanding for sure.
Yeah, like we continue to gain serious momentum every year. So it's really neat to be a part of a brand that's continuously growing like that. We're very big about our social community. Right. So follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram. Our handles are all the same. It's Drink Spindrift. But we'll come out with recipes, like cocktail recipes, just witty banter. Our biggest thing with our brand is creating more of a community with the people who enjoy our brand. So that way we're having more of a conversation with our consumers instead of at our consumers.
Right.
So definitely look us up in terms of the new endeavor. So our liquor store is going up in Deep Ellum. It's at 3020 Canton Street. The name of the place is Angel Share Wine and Spirits.
Okay.
And we are currently in construction mode now. Looking to be, I'd say, a realistic time frame is probably Jan 1.
Okay.
We're working around the clock to try to get in during holiday time, but worst case. Our big value proposition is, if you're looking for it, we can find it for you, and we also deliver to wherever you are within 45 minutes or less.
Cool. All right.
Of course, if I gotta go further out, it might stretch to an hour, but plain as day.
Awesome. Well, I know, January 1, people will be looking for a reset, a refresh, especially after the loops, doozies, all kinds of bombs dropped in 2020. So I am definitely looking forward to ushering in 2021. Actually, I have some planning stuff that I'll be sharing as far as okay, how do we wrap up Q4? How do we make sure that even though 2020 has been a year of transition and great change, how do we build on top of that and set ourselves up for 2021, even when it feels like, I need to get out of this space for sure. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you are liking, subscribing, and sharing, following me on all my social at Tricia Sitemere. Make sure to visit my website, triciasitemere.com. I look forward to speaking with you soon. And in the meantime, onward and upward.